Okay, well, I mean, I also wanted to ask you, I'm just going off a bunch of points I wanted to ask you about. I don't know if this is exactly what you believe, or I don't know if have you heard of like the understanding or the statement like, okay, Israel makes peace, or they have like a land swap or an agreement with the Palestinians, and the Arabs they see it as okay, we can take this, and we'll be able to take more. Like the mentality is different than the West, and I'm saying that into regards to what you said about Iran, where you said we have to. From what I gathered, you and the Ben Shapiro, you said that you have to like negotiate with them and to accommodate them, and I guess do a whole bunch of stuff which I disagree with because I think that America and Israel they need to show force against the aggression of the Islamic regime.
So
So I
here's
just want to ask you, yeah.
Yeah. So it seems like here's an issue. It seems like Israel was really good in the first like 50 years. Not Israel, but like Israel and the Yishuv. They were good for some number of decades as showing force. But I think Israel forgot what showing force was for, right? I think showing force allows you to create the conditions by which Arab countries will respect you and see you as a formidable real thing that is entrenched in the region and won't leave. That was the point of force. And it worked and it was successful. And now people respect Israel. And I use respect in the literal sense that they see it and they're like, damn, that's a thing that's there. Not like they respect or look up to them, but they respect Israel as a country. But the force can only get you so far. And I think ever since the Egyptian War of Attrition, I think is what it was called in the 70s, what Israel has learned historically is that Israel can win quick wars and the population will thrive off of it, but Israel cannot win extended warfare, where it's a siege, it's a slog, it's terrorist attacks, guerrilla attacks, civil unrest. These things are what eventually force Israel to have to start making agreements, whether it's the Oslo Accords, whether it's a disengagement in Gaza. These things follow the First and Second Intifada, whether it's full retreat humiliatingly from Lebanon. It can't win those extended wars. It has to learn to use diplomacy again. And I think after 67, it feels like Israel forgot diplomacy was like Israel thrived off of like this two-pronged like military power that was amazing, but also off of its political wisdom. And I feel like sometimes that political wisdom just gets forgotten. That's what it feels like.
I actually completely agree with you. And I think the biggest separation right now with the left and the right is they all kind of agree on the same things that you just mentioned, but it's like the cause, but the effect is different. Like I'll tell you, my mom is she's super, super liberal, super like, peace, all this shit. And my dad is super, super right. So, like for an example, my dad, and I'm falling more into the right area. He agrees with you about a lot of the settlements and the issues with the force and diplomacy, and you can't just live with terrorist attacks. But his effect and how you solve that, like he was like, just bomb Lebanon. We have to go to war with them right now. After Hamas, after what they did, you have to go attack them. You have to get rid of them. Instead of trying to accommodate and please them, you have to you have to get rid of them basically. So I'm falling under that because I'm just not seeing like there's a level of content that you can have. I think the Palestinians of the West Bank they're not as indoctrinated as the Gazans, but I think Hezbollah, Hamas, all these terrorist organizations, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, you can't reason with them, and I think that you either need to obliterate them and face the consequences, or live with them like we've been doing for the last 20 years, and you get terrorist attacks every year.
I agree with that. So here are like the two big problems. So I'm pulling both of these from Shalom Web interview. So one is that Israel can create the conditions for peace, but Israel can't create the price for peace. So I agree, Hamas has to go. That like almost for sure, Hamas has to go. But after Hamas goes, even though Israel's created the conditions now for peace, Israel has to be willing to pay the price, which hurts. It might come in the form of land. It's going to be land. That's what it has to be. And it's going to come in the form of some sort of repatriation or some sort of refugee. Something is going to be there. And the problem is Israel doesn't want to pay that price. And as long as Israel doesn't want to pay the price, no matter what the conditions are, there will never be a resolution of this issue. And I think a second issue that Israel has, especially being definitely a Western-styled country, is I think there's an incorrect dichotomy, and I actually had this too up until, I guess, a month ago, is that it seems like in the West we think that you can either have a dictatorship or you can have a democracy. But for Arab states, that's not the case. a lot of them, you can't just force them into democracies. I don't know how many Arab states have democracies. There is a preference, however, towards a secular dictatorship versus an Islamic theocratic dictatorship. So I don't think the goal should be for Israel to wait for a democracy to authentically spring up and take hold in the Palestinian peoples. I think the Palestinian people having a secular dictator or a secular autocratic leader is fine. I think you can make peace with people like that. It happened with the Hashemites in Jordan. It happened with Sadat in Egypt. I think it happened with Faisal in Syria or not Syria. I'm sorry, Saudi Arabia. Like, yeah, you can. It's okay to have these autocratic regimes. They don't have to be like forced immediately to democracy. And maybe that would give Israel a better negotiating platform. But they have to be willing to pay a price, which means the demolition of settlements in the West Bank. It means giving up on the crazy territorial expansion. Like, that has to happen, right? Because right now, we're just not like right now everything's and there's like no end in sight, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. Can I ask you a question real quick, just on
Yeah,
that point?
go, yeah.
So I mean, I'm curious to know. I know what your answer is going to be, but this is a bit more of a. I'm not asking you morally, but logistically speaking, pragmatically speaking, what if Israel annexes all of the West Bank and they basically do what they did in 48? If you want to stay here and live with us, then you can, and if you don't want to, then get the fuck out of here.
Wait,
Basically, if they
annex
annex
it.
the land, what they do in
Mm-hmm.
48, what they did in 48, they do now in the West Bank.
So, one is they'd have nowhere to go. I don't think any neighboring country want to take in that many refugees. But two is, I think there's the looming problem of refugees. I think that Israel demographically could annex the whole West Bank. It would be a big political upheaval, but they could do it. But they wouldn't be able to annex the West Bank and do a right of return for like the 6 or 7 million refugees now. That would be too much. I think that's like your
Well,
big
why does it have to
problem.
be 6 or 7 million? Why does it have to be UNRWA standards of refugees?
Because, well, that's UNRWA fucked everybody up, and the Arab League fucked everybody up. That's another problem that has to be dealt with externally. The Palestinian refugee status needs to be revoked, probably from almost all the Palestinian refugees. And
Yeah.
then the Arab states need to start. If they're going to accept refugees, you need to accept refugees, not just hold them on your borders indefinitely in camps with a refusal to give them passports. That's insane. But that's an external thing. Israel can't. Well, that would have to be part of a big multilateral negotiation. But yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's more possible. I mean, as me and you both agree, that with all the settlements that are like expanding and building, it's like you said, quote unquote, it's gonna look like Swiss cheese, you know?
Yeah. Um,
So I agree with you. I think we agree on a lot, and I think I'll sum it up. But I think in terms of the right and the left in Israel, they agree on a lot of the issues, but the reactions to how they believe they should be dealt with are just a complete 180. So I'm still trying to figure out where I lie in that, but yeah.
I just think, yeah. I don't feel like Israel is in a position mentally or spiritually right now to want to give anything up to the Palestinians. Do
I
you think
agree.
Netanyahu's government is demolishing settlements in the West Bank?
Yeah, but people always break up Netanyahu. But I mean, like, listen, that guy he's power hungry. He's not a fanatic. The fanatic is Ben Gvir. Ben Gvir's the only person who would be willing to be in a coalition with Netanyahu. That's why he's in power. Like no
Yeah, but I
one
mean,
else
like
would.
Netanyahu, Ariel Sharon, like Israel's been on a pretty like, say for Ehud Barak in 90 fucking 7 or whatever the. Like Israel's been pretty right leaning for what, like since 95, 96 when Netanyahu first came in office. Like it's like
Well,
then you
yeah.
like yeah it like Israel's just gone further and further and further right. I think like especially since the second Intifada, I think Israel's just like lost. They're pushed down that path for who knows how long. And now you've had October 7th, so like yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, yeah. They are going. I mean, there's so much more issues in Israel though too. Like even before October 7th, like with the Orthodox in Israel who don't pay taxes, they don't serve, they don't go to the army, they get tax cuts because they're coalition. Like even now in the war, like the right wing coalition, and other right wing members in the party, they got a whole bunch of like Netanyahu gives them money to stay in the coalition with them. So I
Mhm.
mean, I'm not trying to go into the most political area, but Orthodox people don't serve that much. There are a lot more in the war, but a lot of them don't. And now a lot of these people are getting a shit ton of money to stay in the coalition. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, that's it. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, no problem. Wait, how old are you? What do you do?
I'm 18. I'm joining the IDF in a few months, and I actually have a my friend who introduced me to you is currently serving, and he's gonna watch this. So hi, or
Jesus. What wait, so
but yeah.
so you do live in Israel?
No, I don't live in Israel. I'm currently out. But I'm gonna go there very soon. And honestly, I have a good friend.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and his dad, or not his dad, but I know a few people who are connected to Naftali Bennett, and I was I was going to see maybe if I could pull a whole bunch of strings, if maybe he'd want to sit down and talk to you, if you'd be interested in something like that.
For which guy? What was the name?
Naftali Bennett,
What does he do?
Naftal, but he's a former prime minister of Israel.
Wait, in what year? Oh, Naphtali Bennett.
Yeah, yeah,
Was this like recently? Was this super recent? Oh, it was. Okay,
yeah.
2021, 22.
It was
Sorry.
with
Yeah, I mean,
Likud, I
obviously, yeah.
believe.
Well, obviously, yeah. If I could talk to any fucking former prime minister of Israel, 1 billion% would do this, of course.
Yeah, Israel's a tiny country. It's people know each other, so I'm trying to pull a bunch of strings. But yeah, uh, I'm I'm a Israeli Zionist, I guess you could say. And the area I live in has the worst thing. It's like the people you meet online or the people I see down the street, you know?
Sure. Wait, what do you mean by that, actually?
Huh?
What do you mean by that?
Like, I mean, there's a whole bunch of restaurants in my street who are like, we don't want Zionists coming in here.
Oh, okay, okay. Wait, in
It's like
Israel or in where you're
fuck
at now?
where I'm at now in
Gotcha,
America,
gotcha. Oh, in America. Okay, okay.